Iniono, brackets, The Root of a Child, written and read by Esohe Uwadiae. 1. Nobody but the dead know peace. Even then, it's only the white dead. The black dead still got suffering to do. The lyricism of my mother never failed to amaze me, particularly as it was often an afterthought, an absent-minded flowing from her between the vortex of her phone and whatever domestic activity she was engaged in. Today, it was cooking, specifically ogbono. My father's love of slimy soups to accompany his swallow meant a near constant production of one within our home. Last week it was okra, my favourite. Together we ground the crayfish, combining it with okra into a masticated globule that left a sticky residue below our fingernails. The blender's hum was a welcome companion to our movement. In another life, she could have been a poet. In this one, she was a wife, a daughter, a mother who never had time to learn how to swim, let alone time to muse, to study couplets and create metaphors for describing the human condition. She was the price paid for my hobbies, the fertilizer of my indulgent pursuit of self-actualization. I loved and resented her for it in equal measure. Her knife greeted the chopping board in rhythmic intervals, but her eyes were elsewhere, focused on the YouTube auntie gesticulating on the phone, jumping between the elongated syllables of pidgin English and her native language. She laid out the facts of the latest conspiracy, capturing the imagination of aunties and their WhatsApp groups nationwide. Said facts were another, typically young black person, found dead, near or in a body of water. A police declaration that circumstances were non-suspicious. They say we have a serial killer among us. I tell you, it is juju. Sacrifices to Oshun, she declares. Up pop AI images of crystal water beneath the full moon, the patchy brown leather of decayed animal skulls, and of course the Illuminati triangle, because, well, why not? Naturally, she didn't clarify who they were. My mother cries out to our God then, the Christian one of her colonizers. I roll my eyes. This wasn't the first conspiracy she disrupted our lives with, and I wasn't keen on a repeat. That's the problem with you born abroad. You have forgotten you can be prey too. She says this while pouring the blended mixture into the steaming pot, blessing our nostrils with the aroma of onions mingling with palm oil. Considering how racist this country is, I'm pretty sure that isn't true. She shushes me, then continues on. Just because white people have not yet discovered this way of harming us does not mean it is not real. My mother's lecture battled with the auntie on her phone, her voice rising in volume to compete. I remind her she could pause the video. She ignores me. It's clearly juju, my mother declares. If this were Nigeria, would anyone question it? I bear this in mind when 3 weeks later, I find myself throwing her body into the estuary, not far from where we used to live. 2. The death of my mother. The dying of my mother. The passing of my mother. I cannot bring myself to think of it in any way other than the passive. I need the distance it creates, the brief sojourn from reality. Meanwhile, my sister cannot bear to think of it at all. She retreats into herself. She transforms into an endangered species, reduced to fleeting glimpses around the house at unpredictable intervals. To knock on her doors to be ignored, to force entries to risk injury and vitriol I know is meant for someone else. Her hygiene decomposes in the same way as her sanity, attracting the opportunistic lovers of filth and decay, flies, and men. Men who clearly do not love her, care about her, or even like her at times, but as willing as the next to enjoy the access her grief creates to the most intimate parts of her, like a national insurance number. As we were both adults living in our parents' home, I had no leg to stand on. So I say nothing, give her space the way Psychology Today and Reddit suggest. But even this proved too much for her. Unable to face the wreckage of our life, I returned home one day to find her gone. My mother's gold is missing too, alongside the £1,000 I had hidden in my underwear drawer, and both our passports. It's not long before the police are at the door, with questions about what she'd been up to, but no word of her whereabouts. I am difficult to speak to, deny them entry. They leave with no further information than they'd come with. Then I proceed to scrub, and scrub, and scrub. I spend days like this, blistering my skin with ever stronger chemicals. They'd ruled my mother's death non-suspicious, but even still, perhaps there's something I'd miss, something they with their trained eyes would see unravelling everything. My mind becomes an adventurer, inviting me down rabbit holes and along pathways unfeasible to the balanced mind. I find myself scrubbing places impossible to have been tarnished, like the bathroom ceiling or the underside of the living room ledge. The scent of bleach holds me back, and I forfeit the little on my stomach to the kitchen floor. I stare at it, this murky green reminiscent of the ochre we'd made together. Ochre we'd never make again, because my mother was dead. And she would die again and again for the rest of my life. A death she did not deserve. A death without justice. And it was my fault. This remembrance claws at my insides, feral and full of vengeance. My eyes drift towards the bottle of bleach still open, sending fumes into the air. Of the domestic chores, cleaning had always been my preference, for it was rewarding. The way a drop of bleach could glide through grime and filth as effortlessly as a duck through the local pond, or a scalpel through the stomach. I pick up the bottle, wonder how easy it would be to just... A knock on the door. I stagger at pace towards it because even though unlikely, it could be my sister come to sit in the house she'd made together. But it's a man. Without greeting, he says, I know about your mum, what they did to you. They did it to me too, and I'm going to make them pay. 3. To understand what he means by this, I need to explain how we got here, how my mother ended up dead, and why my sister killed her.